everybody, and welcome back to another video. So around the third week of June, I did a unboxing of a Reef Brite Halide hybrid fixture. And what I wanted to do a few weeks later is to come back and provide you with my impressions in terms of how that light fixture is performing over my frag tank. So let me turn this around and get into it. Okay, so what I wanted to do was really a side-by-side comparison of my two frag tanks. So on the left-hand side, I've got my 75-gallon frag tank, and some of you old-school reefers will recognize these reflectors. These are the old Luminarc reflectors. I'm not even sure you can get them today, but they do an awesome job in terms of reflecting the light. Some great reflectors, very popular back in the day. So popular that I'm still using them because I love the spread on these reflectors. But anyway, I've got some 400 watt 20K iridium bulbs inside of these reflectors, and I've got this selectable ballast which allows you to overdrive the halide bulbs. So this selectable ballast, actually you could also run 250 watt bulbs. There's settings for those, but there's also two settings for 400 watt bulbs: the standard 400 watt setting, and then a super lume setting, which allows you to overdrive the bulbs and get more of a crisper white coloration out of the bulbs and the corals. So in this newer 50-gallon frag tank is what I've got the Reef Brite Halide hybrid fixtures on top of. And I picked up I bought some of the Reef Brite twin arc tubes 400 watt bulbs, and I talked about those bulbs in the unboxing video. They're really like two bulbs in one. They last a lot longer than the standard metal halide single tube bulbs. But anyway, for this test, what I really wanted to do was try to kind of get as close to apples a comparison as possible. So I swapped out those twin arc bulbs and put in my my favorite 400 watt 20K iridium bulbs. So that's what's in those fixtures, and the ballast that I picked up for these fixtures are just standard electronic ballast. They're not selectable, so they just have that standard 400 watt setting, so you cannot overdrive the bulbs. So for the bulbs and the Luminarc reflectors, I did just use that standard 400 watt setting to try to make it as close a comparison as possible. So one obvious difference is that you've got the XHO LED supplemental lighting. And so just kind of standing back and looking at the two tanks, visually, I like the Reef Brites a lot more than I do the radiums in the Luminarc reflectors, and that's because it just seems to pop more. It's just more of a blue pop on the Reef Brite fixtures. So that was one nice positive thing that I noticed with the Reef Brite fixtures. The other big thing is heat. So when I put my hand on this Luminarc reflector, about 5 seconds, I gotta freaking pull that thing off because it's gonna burn me if I leave my hand on there. Whereas for the Reef Brite fixtures, I can leave my hand on there. I mean, it's warm, but not terribly warm, so I can leave my hand on there much longer. And my understanding is that the reason why you can do that, it's got to do with the type of metal that's being used in those fixtures, and that's why they do not use fans, and they're not as hot to the touch as they are versus other reflectors or other halide fixtures. So those are two things that kind of stood out right away. Now the one thing I also want to point out, I do really like the spread of light for these Reef Brite fixtures. I've got them mounted about 20 inches above the tank. The the halide bulbs and the Luminarc reflectors are about 15 inches above the tank. So that's plenty of light, and I could definitely see the blue pop also at that height. So it's nice to be able to keep these fixtures up at that height and have the kind of spread. So I really do like the reflectors in these fixtures, and they totally cover this 48-inch long by 24-inch wide tank. So I don't have a par meter, and I can't really measure at this point in time the difference in par that's coming out of these Reef Brite fixtures versus what's coming out of the tank on the left. But you know, hopefully at one point soon down the road I will be able to get a par meter and take those measurements. But you know, really the key indicator to me is how the corals are responding and how the corals look. And the corals certainly have seemed happy over the last 5 or 6 weeks I've been running these fixtures with good coloration and good growth. So you know what, I mean, when the day comes when I need to replace these reflectors, and perhaps that day will come sooner than later, I'm going to use the Reef Brite fixtures because I'm just digging the color that's coming out of them. And you know, the fact that they're running cooler than these other reflectors is a big bonus in my book. You know, and the other thing that I think kind of sticks in the back of my mind is, well, you know, maybe it's time to just kind of go all LEDs over the you know, the frag tank on the left. But you know, I had Dana Riddle on my live stream show recently, rapping with ReefBum, and Dana's like, you know, hey, metal halide lighting is, he thinks, kind of making a comeback. So I certainly want to stick with that because you know, with the frag tank, you want to get good, quick growth, and you want to get great coloration, and that's what I've been getting over the years using you know, metal halide lighting. So yeah, you know, and there's really not a lot of options out there these days in terms of metal halide pendants. You know, most manufacturers are just focusing on LED lighting, and I can understand that. But you know, if you're thinking about a metal halide light to run over your tank or frag tank, I think you certainly have to check out the Reef Brite fixtures, and you can find out more information at reefbrite.com. Anyway, folks, that'll do it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I also want to remind you about my premium SPS frag store. You can visit at reefbum.com. I'll put a link in the video description below. I also want to remind you about my reef keeping master class. It's an online class that's dedicated to keeping SPS dominant tanks, and I will also leave a link in the video description below. Anyway, that'll do it. Until next time, be safe, be well, take care.